Which is better, the Samsung Galaxy A55 5G or the Samsung Galaxy S23 FE 5G? Well, in this video, we're going to find out. What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with my comparison of the Galaxy A55 5G versus the Galaxy S23 FE 5G. Now, I thought this video would be especially interesting considering that these phones actually do have quite a bit in common, even though one's an A-series device and another is an S-series device. Now, the first thing I want to mention is availability. Now, the Galaxy A55 5G has not been officially launched as of now in the US, and I'm not sure if there's any plans for that to happen. It is possible, you never know. But this phone, of course, is sold in other parts of the world, and I will be leaving a link to it in the video description. And then the Galaxy S23 FE 5G is actually very popular in the US and in other markets as well. I know this phone especially has been very big on the various carriers, and it's definitely one of the reasons why it has been selling so well. Now, as far as the general form factors of these devices go, they actually appear to be very identical. Whether it's the front panels here where they both have a notch up top and then pretty small bezels all throughout, and then on the back of the phones where they just have the 3 cameras and then the single flash. In many ways, these phones are actually very difficult to distinguish from one to the other. Now, the first major difference for these two phones definitely has to be the display sizes that we are getting here. So with the Galaxy A55, we're getting a 6.6-inch display compared to a slightly smaller 6.4-inch display with the S23 FE. And you can see when holding the two phones side by side here, without a doubt, the S23 FE is the smaller phone of the two. Now, in certain ways, that might actually be a good thing because it does make this phone a bit more pocketable. Another difference is the actual display technology that's being used for these two devices. So with the Galaxy A55, we're getting a Super AMOLED display here, and then with the Galaxy S23 FE, we're getting a Dynamic AMOLED 2X display. Now, the Dynamic AMOLED 2X is definitely a lot better of a display technology compared to the standard Super AMOLED, and certainly when putting these two phones side by side, it is very easy to tell that the display technology with the S23 FE is better. The colors here are a lot bolder, a lot richer in general, and then both phones do thankfully offer very good viewing angles, so that is one of the benefits with AMOLED overall. But again, we are getting the better display technology here with the S23 FE in comparison. Now, both phones do feature 120Hz refresh rates, so that's really good too. We're getting nice, smooth refresh rates here with both devices. That's definitely a very premium feature that you typically wouldn't expect to even find with mid-range phones. And then on both devices, the displays are 1080p. We're getting a PPI of 390 with the Galaxy A55 compared to a PPI of 403 with the Galaxy S23 FE. And then both phones do feature 19.5:9 aspect ratios, so they both have kind of more narrow but taller form factors here. And then with the Galaxy A55, we're getting an 85.8% screen-to-body ratio compared to an 83.2% screen-to-body ratio with the S23 FE. So even though the A55 is an A-series device, the bezels are actually smaller here in comparison to the size of the phone compared to the S23 FE. Now up top here, both phones do feature hole punches for the front-facing cameras. And then with the A55, we're getting a 32 megapixel front-facing camera compared to a 10 megapixel front-facing camera for the S23 FE. And then both phones do feature 128 gigabytes of storage. However, with the A55, we are getting microSD card expansion, whereas there is no microSD card expansion with the S23 FE. So just keep in mind that with the FE, you are stuck with the amount of storage that you're getting here out of the box. Whereas with the A55, you do at least get some sort of flexibility to add in a microSD card to offload photos and videos, for example, to free up some of that internal space. Now, as far as wireless charging goes, there's no wireless charging with the A55, so that is unfortunate that that's not present here at all with this phone. But then with the S23 FE, not only are we getting 15-watt wireless charging, but this phone also supports reverse wireless charging. So you can actually use this phone to wirelessly recharge other devices. So maybe you have headphones, for example, that are wireless charging compatible. You can just put them on the bottom of this device, and then from there, the phone will actually recharge that device. So personally, with phones that support reverse wireless charging, I tend to not really use that feature, but I definitely do use regular wireless charging quite often with devices that do support it. Now, both of these phones do feature in-display fingerprint sensors in addition to face unlock, so I do appreciate that we have those options with both. Let's try first the fingerprint sensor here with the Galaxy A55. And you can see it's very fast and responsive. Let's try that one more time. So you can see very consistent there. And then we'll try the same thing here with the Galaxy S23 FE. So we'll try that right now. There we go, it works really well, and we'll try that one more time. So very responsive there. So certainly if you are someone who likes to use the in-display fingerprint sensor, it doesn't matter which phone you're using, it's going to be a very good experience. Now taking a look at the cameras on the back of both phones, we have some similarities and then also some differences here. So both phones do feature 50 megapixel main cameras, and then they also feature 12 megapixel ultra wide angle cameras. But with the A55, we're getting a macro camera at 5 megapixels compared to the S23 FE, where we're getting a 3x telephoto camera, and then that camera is 8 megapixels. So here's how things look in the camera apps on both devices. This is with the main rear camera on both right now. Then from here, we can switch over to the ultra wide cameras in both phones, and then with that, we can fit a lot more content into a single frame here. We can also then head over to portrait mode on both devices to get those nice blurred out backgrounds. There's also the ability here to actually zoom in with the telephoto camera on the S23 FE to get a different type of portrait mode experience. So let's see if that'll focus. There we go. Even at 2x, you can do the same thing. So a bit more options here because of that telephoto camera. And then in addition to that, we can flip around to the front-facing camera on both phones and take portrait selfies. There's also an option here to crop out a little bit for a group selfie. And then there's also an option for standard front-facing selfie modes on both phones. Then flipping around again to the rear cameras, heading over to the More tab on the A55. We do have an option for the macro camera, where you can get very close up and have things be in really good detail. And then with the S23 FE, we can go over here where it says 3, and that switches things over to the telephoto camera at 3x. And then as you can see, you can actually zoom in with that optical zoom and get a true 3x zoom with this device. Now personally, if I had to choose between macro and the telephoto camera, I would definitely take the telephoto camera in pretty much any situation. You're pretty much getting the benefits of the telephoto, except it's a lot higher quality. And of course, you can use it to zoom in on things that are much further away as well. So in general, I think the telephoto is a great feature to have. And it is unfortunate that we're not getting that here with the A55 5G. Now, as far as video recording goes with these two phones, with the Galaxy A55 5G, we are getting 4K video recording with both the front and rear cameras on this device. And then with the Galaxy S23 FE, we actually get up to 8K video recording with the rear camera at 24 FPS, or also 4K at 60. And then also the front-facing camera supports up to 4K at 60 FPS as well. So definitely when it comes to video recording, I would go with the S23 FE over the A55 just because you're getting a lot better of video recording options, and then of course better cameras along with that, giving you a much better final result. Now both phones do come with 8 gigabytes of RAM, however the processors are different here. So with the Galaxy A55 5G, we're getting the Samsung Exynos 1480 processor, and then with the Galaxy S23 FE, we are getting the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. So the Gen 1 is 2 generations old, so at this point we are at the Gen 3, but still, it's one of Qualcomm's top-of-the-line processors, especially as of a couple years ago, and you should definitely expect to get pretty much flagship performance with that chip here on the phone. Compared to the Galaxy A55 5G, the Exynos 1480 is a mid-range processor. You should still expect to get really good performance with it, but just know that it's not as good as what we're getting here with the processor on the S23 FE. Now I did run a benchmark test using Geekbench 6 on both phones, and I'll show you the scores from that test right now. So basically you can see here with the A55, I got a single core score of 1160 compared to 1434 with the S23 FE. And then multi-core is actually a bit higher here on the A55, which is interesting, but in general, expect to get better performance and also battery efficiency here with the S23 FE. And then with both of these phones, we are getting 5,000 mAh internal batteries that do support up to 25 watt fast charging. But again, keep in mind that you will have to use a 25 watt fast charger to make that possible. Now, as far as the software goes, both phones are running Android 14, running Samsung's One UI 6.1. The S23 FE originally came with Android 13, but since has gotten that update, whereas the A55 came with Android 14 out of the box. And then both phones do have NFC, so that's great for tap and pay to make mobile contactless payments. And then both phones do support up to IP67 dust and water resistance, which means they can go underwater for up to 1 meter for up to 30 minutes. And then both phones do have stereo speakers, which is nice. However, with the S23 FE, we are getting support for Samsung DeX. So you are getting the desktop mode, basically, where you can plug this phone into an external monitor and then get a desktop OS out of this actual operating system here in the phone, which is pretty nice. But that feature is not available on the A55. I'm not sure, though, if that's really a selling point for most people, as I don't really know that many people that actually use the feature, even though it's actually a pretty cool thing to have. Now, the general finishes on both phones are a bit different. We're getting more of a stainless steel look here, I suppose, on the A55, kind of a brushed look compared to a more polished, painted look on the S23 FE. But both phones do feel of really good quality. On the left side of both devices, we have nothing. On the right side, we have volume up, volume down, and then the power buttons. And then on the top of both phones, we have the SIM card slot, which is also the SD card slot with the A55. And then we do have the noise-canceling microphones. And then on the bottom of the two phones, we have the microphone, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and then also the main speaker. And then on the back of the two phones, they look pretty similar in general. You can see here both phones have that triple camera setup along with the flash, and then Samsung branding at the bottom. But I hope you enjoyed this comparison of the Samsung Galaxy A55 5G versus the Samsung Galaxy S23 FE 5G. I hope you learned something new today, and hopefully this made it easier for you to decide which phone to get. But this is Kevin here. Thanks again for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Take care and have a great rest of your day.